Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're virtual only. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number does work if you'd like to contact us. We solve a little piece of revelation each week. We do the philosophy of eschatology. What you need to know, your reality, our existence. The part that we're solving today is wrath. Wrath pops up, it's themos and it's orge in Revelation that pops up all over the place. And what does it mean? And who's it vented against? So God will punish who, and his wrath is against who, and why does it matter to you? So we'll cover that today. Keep in mind that I'm part of a group that meets every Thursday night. Scott Harwell, Douglas Hamp, and myself are joining together every Thursday night for Prophecy Roundtable. It's a lot of fun. It's a good discussion, so please join us sometime. And so, what's today's show on? It's really on for whom is God's wrath accumulated? And I'm using the word in English, it's accumulated. It would be pakad in the Hebrew, which would be a case of accounting for. So let's say your sins are accounted for and numerically. And by the time you get to the end, God says it's time to judge you because you've reached the point where you can't go any further. And so God uses that pakad word a lot in the Hebrew texts. And so in this case, wrath is part of that. So he's storing up. That's pakading. That's accumulating wrath for yourself in the day of God's wrath. Okay. Okay. So that's Romans 2:5. And then immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, greed equals idolatry. For it is because of these things that the wrath of God will come upon the sons of disobedience. That's Colossians 3:6. Interesting. So basically, wrath is coming, but what kind of wrath? Because I mentioned two different types. And who's it coming against? Is it coming against people that are good little believers that work on faith and do good deeds to other people, or is it against the wicked? I'm going to show you that in a little bit. We'll cover that. Don't worry. So I want you to remember this verse. Put this in the back of your mind as I'm going through this whole process today. For see, that literally means you're going to see this at some point in time if you happen to be alive during these days. Adonai emerges from his place to punish those on the earth for their sin. Then the earth will reveal the blood shed on it and no longer conceal its slain. That's Isaiah 26:21. That is in the midst of this important section of Isaiah 24 through 28, where it describes the end times, the revelation, so to speak, in the Old Testament. And so I want you to be aware that first he says, go into your rooms and pray and be very careful because it's going to be dangerous outside. Then he will emerge and you'll see it and he'll punish those. So who are the those? So let's cover it today. And so a little bit more that I want to cover first, which is, the rapture has been so provocative over the years. I believe it started in 1830. It started dispensationalism too. It's Darby and Margaret MacDonald and things like that. But really, what I want you to think about is that we don't need the exit strategy. We're supposed to be here. We're appointed to witness his wrath. Against who? And we'll get to that slide in just a little bit. For God did not appoint us to wrath, but to obtain salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, that's what the rapture people cite all the time. And we're coming up against the wicked witch and the false prophet and the Antichrist, and Satan's going to be cast out and all sorts of things. We're supposed to be here to witness that. Okay. And so what you need to see is that 1 Thessalonians 5:9 does say we aren't appointed to wrath, but that doesn't mean that you won't die because everybody dies. And that won't mean that you won't stub your toe, and things like that. So bad things happen. So let's hope it's not one of those weeks when I have to unleash the flying monkeys because I will. And so this will be the week of years coming up where the flying monkeys will be unleashed. So here you read 1 Thessalonians 5:9. Now let's finish the thought in 1 Thessalonians 5:14. But we urge you, brothers, to confront those who are lazy, your aim being to help them change, to encourage the timid, to assist the weak, and to be patient with everyone. Okay, so at some point in time, we're going to get into the Great Tribulation, greater tribulation than the Great Tribulation at the end. And you're going to have to encourage other people to just keep the pace up, just get through one more day, one more day, one more day. So what do? We do the philosophy of the end of days. We talk about the Bible. We cite prophecies that are relevant, and we talk about the news, and we try to describe what you need to do to get through these days coming up. Okay, so let's cover some of the important points first. Okay, so you're battling against demons, and there will be more so in the future, and against the Satan and the Antichrist and the false prophet, and against the big tech overlords and other things like that. So what is the difference between the demons and the Satan, and what is the judgment? This is really where I'm going with this, is what judgment is coming against whom? Okay, and in this case, demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. This is Dr. Michael Heiser saying this, and they're the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, the wicked offspring of marriages between humans and angels before the flood, and after the flood too, for that matter, because it says that in Genesis 6:4. So, are demons and principalities and powers just terms for the same entities, or are they different members of the kingdom of darkness? Well, they are similar. There are different words in the Greek and different words in the Hebrew too. We'll cover some of that today. I want to cover a little bit so that you can see it in Revelation. So, yes, they're similar to those principalities and powers. And there are these. Keep in mind, there are fallen angels on the right hand side, and then there are demons. Demons seem to be lower in the spectrum, less powerful, less important to the storyline. They can be mute. They are problematic and troublesome, but they are not as bad as fallen angels. Fallen angels are powerful. So, what I want you to see on the right-hand side is later Jewish writings portray fallen angel, Hasatan, as a non-human entity opposed to God and God's people. He's the accuser, the adversary. This demonstrates that conceptual development in the direction of viewing Satan, Hasatan, as a single God-opposing spiritual being that occurred during the centuries after Job 1 through 2, Zechariah 3, 1 through 2, and 1 Chronicles 21, 1. So thank you, Michael. So basically, there's demonic power. They have certain rules and objectives. They were frightened when they met Yeshua. Satan confronts Yeshua in Luke 4, and he seems to offer him some power. So we'll see that in the next slide here after this. And so I want you to see how demons are represented, and the fallen angels, especially here in Enoch, so that then you can place that in context when you read the rest of the or see the rest of this presentation. So, and it came to pass when the sons of men had increased, that in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters. And the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them, and they said to one another, "Come, let us go, let us choose for ourselves, go down and choose from the children of men, and let us beget for ourselves children." And that's Genesis 6, 1 through 4. It also matches up with Numbers 13:33 and Baruch 3, 24 through 28. And they all answered him and said, "Let us swear an oath and bind one another with curses, so not to alter this plan, but to carry out this plan effectively." Then they all swore together and bound one another with curses to it. And they were in all 200, and they came down to Ardis, which is really the Mount Hermon area. And they called the Mount Hermon because they swore and bound one another with curses. So that's First Enoch 6. And I kind of spliced together a few verses there. And, the verses are they're not laid out that well. Okay, so continuing on to First Enoch 10. And further the Lord said to Raphael, "Bind Azazel by his hands and his feet, and throw him into the darkness, and split open the desert, which is in Dudael, and throw him there, and throw on him jagged and sharp stones, and cover him with darkness, and let him stay there forever, and cover his face so that he may not see light, so that on the great day of judgment he may be hurled into the fire." That sounds like Isaiah 24, 21 through 22, and we will read that today. And 2 Peter 2, 4, and Jude 1, 6, and Revelation 21 through 3. When all their sons kill each other, and when they see destruction of their loved ones, bind them for 70 generations under the hills of the earth until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the judgment, which is for all eternity, is accomplished. That's 2 Peter 2, 4, Jude 1 through 6, or 1, 6. And in those days they will lead them into the abyss of fire, in torment, and in prison they shall be shut up for all eternity. Psalm 140:10, Revelation 19:20, Revelation 20:10. So that's from 1 Enoch 10, and those are spliced together again. Okay, so I mentioned Luke. So the adversary, the fallen angel, Hasatan is a fallen angel, took him up, showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world, and said to him, I will give you all this power, exousia, executive level delegated authority without legislative or judicial oversight. That's what he offered. Okay. And the other word is doxa, which is kavod, which is holy and heavy. Okay. And so he offered him exousia and doxa, and it has been handed over to me so I can give it to whomever I choose. So if you will worship me, it will all be yours. Yeshua answered him. The Tanakh says, worship Adonai your God and serve him only. That's Deuteronomy 6:16. So that's Luke 4:5-8. And exousia, as I mentioned, is a link to the fourth horseman, and I've mentioned that many times over the years. Doxa is an interesting word, but basically what I'm saying is the demons are the the dead Nephilim and those spirits. They have less power. Satan seems to have some power here. Okay, he has executive power and he has some holiness power, and he was willing to offer it, but Yeshua couldn't accept, obviously. So now we're covering Isaiah 24. And this will be very interesting for you so you can see the differences of what's going on. So it's God's wrath against the Zava and the Melachim is the point that I'm trying to make in this video. That's where the wrath is going. And we'll see if I prove it. Terror, pit, and trap are upon you, and you who are living on the earth. He who flees at the sound of terror will fall into the pit. He who climbs up out of the pit will be caught in the trap, for the windows above, that's the magnetosphere thinning, and it's thinning faster, have been opened. And the earth's foundations shake. That's earthquakes. The earth cracks and breaks open. Earthquakes. The earth crumbles into pieces. The earth trembles and totters. The earth swaggers to and fro like a drunk. That's a magnetic pole shift, and that's going to happen. So I'm living on the 45th parallel right now. I'll probably end up on the 45th parallel south. I'm north. I'll end up south by the time it's all done. So that's a pole shift that will occur. If you're living in Miami, Florida, you'll be dead. Okay? If you're living in Denver, you'll probably survive other than the hordes of people. But basically, you're going to have this horrific magnetic pole shift. That's what the Bible predicts. The earth will sway back and forth like a watchman's shelter. Its transgression weighs heavy upon it. It will fall and not rise again. Isaiah 24:17-20. So what I'm getting at is that you're going to have in the next verses here then the judgment against the Zava and the Melachim. And you should see it now. Okay. So when that day, and that's actually the Shemitah week, when it comes, Adonai, God, will punish. There's your wrath word, okay? And who's he going to punish? The armies, the Zava. Those are the fallen angels of the high heaven. That's Hamarom Bamarom. So that means that they're of the heaven, in the heaven, on high. And the Merom seems to extend from Mount Hermon up to about the moon. Okay, and that's their zone that they come to. So God is going to punish them. And he's not saying that he's going to punish people that are believers. He's going to punish the Zava, these fallen angels, and the kings. Well, what are the kings? Well, I'll give you a couple of other slides later on where you'll see what the kings actually are. But we'll call it for right now King Charles. And he may not be long for this world. Poor guy. I'm still unhappy with him over what he did to Princess Diana. The affairs and whatnot. So, and also big tech. Big tech is huge. Okay. So you can say it's the kings of the earth, but really it's big tech. And I'll make a better case of that when we get to the slides in Revelation. So these are the kings of the earth here on the earth. So ha eretz ba eretz. They will be assembled like prisoners in a dungeon and then shut up in prison to be punished many years. Then the moon will be confused and the sun ashamed, for Adonai Tezvaot, our God, is a God of angels, Zava, plural, Zavaot, will rule on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem with his glory manifest to the rulers of his people. Okay. So this is all making sense. It's starting to flow through. And my case is that God is judging against the kings of the earth and the Zava, the fallen angels of the earth. So if you're a good little believer and you keep your head low, you'll probably get through another day and then another day, and you just keep on praying and getting through. So what I want to make a case for is that the Zava, the fallen angels, are around in Daniel's time frame, and they're still here today, and they will be exposed. And so I'll just give you a little bit of Daniel 10 so you can see this. Then he said to me, "Don't be afraid, Daniel, because since the first day that you determined to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of what you said. The prince of the," okay, that's the Zava, the fallen angel of the kingdom of Persia, prevented me from coming for 21 days. But Michael, he's not a fallen angel. He's a real archangel. He's one of God's finest angels, one of the chief princes. Came to assist me, so that gives you that tip off. Prince, angel, fallen angel, could be a fallen angel, could be an angel, but chief princes came to assist me. So when you see the prince of the kingdom of Persia, you should think angel, fallen angel, one or the other. Okay, came to assist me so that I no longer needed I was no longer needed there with the kings of Persia. Then he said, so there probably kings are more of the human kings. Okay. Do you know why I came to you? Although I must return to fight the prince of Persia when I leave the prince of Greece. So there are territorial fallen angels that are just set up over various kingdoms of the earth. And from what I've heard from other people that have studied the dark side, these fallen angels have territories, but they especially love the United States because they want to mess up people before they get started with ministry and things like that. And there seems to be a lot more of us here in the United States that are trying to minister. So basically, we're preparing for this final end times battle, and so there's the disputes between angels and fallen angels occurring in Daniel and also occurring now. Okay, and one of those signs, and I'll clip this video link and show it to you down below. Oh my, this is one of those battles between good and evil where we win. And it's really fun and it's documented. So, this nice gentleman named Pastor Dave Bryan vied for the daughter of Anton LaVey's kingdom. Okay, so his daughter from that kingdom, and we won this battle. So basically, he cites a silver cord too. So the gist of this, and I'll put the video down below. It's only about 10 minutes. It's wonderful. And so it seems as though Anton LaVey, this Satanist, this horrible Church of Satan leader, died on October 31st. He was doing an out of body experience. He was trying to get his daughter back and do a ritual sacrifice with her. And it looks like this wonderful Dave Bryan and his group of people prayed better than Satan battled, and so it's a victory. So basically, I'll read on the right-hand side. Can you believe the Church of Satan leader, Anton LaVey? His death was a result of praying spirit-filled Christians. This testimony is about Pastor Dave Bryan, who was caring for Anton LaVey's daughter, named Ray LaVey, who has since been renamed to Deborah Joy Bryan. She's alive and well to this day, I understand. The video is a great testimony on spiritual warfare and inner healing and deliverance. Many do not understand we are in a war. I want you to see that. We're in a war between light and darkness, and that will intensify as we move forward into the final 7 years. But in the authority of Yeshua, we can win these spiritual battles. The pastor was in a spiritual battle with the leader of the Church of Satan, which started the religion of Satanism and won the battle. He won it, and God won it. He claims the victory and not us. He claims that God led him to pray according to Ecclesiastes 12:6 to cut Anton LaVey's silver cord. And that's when he died, on Halloween evening, when the silver cord was cut. It's very interesting. So I will clip this and put it down in the section down below, the description. Anton, as he was dying, his last words were, "Oh my, oh my, oh my, what have I done? There's something very wrong. This is something very wrong. There is something very wrong." So it's a victory. So the battle. And what are we battling against? And so what is God going to come against at the end? He's going to come against the rise of techno-authoritarianism. Okay? And that's an article on the left-hand side where it shows Mark Zuckerberg with his little crown on and this powerful. This is done by the Atlantic, of all people. The new technocrats claim to embrace Enlightenment values, but in fact they are leading an anti-democratic, illiberal movement. and Mark apologized to people that he's destroyed with his medium, and that's an appropriate word to use for what he uses. So basically, on the right-hand side is Chris. I'm blanking on Chris's name. He's a great guy. He runs Peak Prosperity. Interviewed oh goodness, Whitney Webb, and so her comments were this: the upper class, the kings of the data barons. She calls them the data barons, I guess, of the modern era. She calls them kings. She cites that they have enforcer tech class underneath them, and then we are the serf underclass. Okay, and so they're data barons. And I added the as in there. They're as kings of the, because that's what you'll find in Revelation 17, that God is coming against the data barons, the tech barons, the kings, those types of people. He's not coming against simplistic people that just have faith. He's not coming against those people. So there's no wrath issues there. Just hide, okay? Hide and try to just survive one more day. So continuing on, we'll go through Revelation chapter 6. This is the sixth seal, and the next page is more important, but this will be interesting. Then as I watched as he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. That's the micronova unlocking the crust, and the mantle breaks free. The sun turned black. It'll go from yellow to white to red to black. When it goes black, we're in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. When it turns black, that's the final stage of micronova. It's coated by dust, and it looks like sackcloth, like basically it looks like goat's hair and sackcloth of dust over the sun, and it turns then black. Okay, and the full moon became blood red, so that has to coincide both together. Okay, and the next one is due Adar 14, March 14th of 2025. And the stars fell from heaven to the earth. That's probably the micronova dust production event. So you'll just have more dust coming in. It will not be big stars falling at this point in time. It would be little tiny dust-like stars. Okay, just as a fig tree, so it'll be small, drops its bitter winter figs. When shaken by a strong wind, the sky receded like a scroll. That's our magnetosphere thinning, which it is doing right now, being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. That's a moderate earthquake across the world, but it's not a death-defying one. Then there is kings. I want you to see the words kings first. So that would be Melachim in the Hebrew, and that's Basileia in the Greek. Then the rulers, and we'll show you that in Revelation 18:23, those are the sorcery merchants. Yes, so please look it up yourself. I'm going to give you a task for the day. Look up the rulers of Revelation 18:23. These are the sorcery merchants. And that's what people are doing across the world today. These tech giants and people like that, they are sorcery merchants, okay? And also the generals and the rich and the mighty, indeed everyone slave and free, hid himself in the caves and among the rocks and the mountains. So you'll have to go underground at some point in time, and said to the rocks and the mountains, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one sitting on the throne, and from the fury, that's Orge again, of the Lamb. This is proof that the rich and the poor will be aware of the sixth seal, and they will be aware that they are coming under judgment during this Shemitah week, which is the day of the Lord. Okay, connect those two together. Shemitah week, day of the Lord. For the great day of their fury, that's Orge again, has come, and who can stand? So that's Revelation 6. It ended up being 12 through 17. Okay, a little bit more so you can see the end of this. And so keep in mind that we have peaceful Jesus most of the New Testament, but then he suddenly is violent in Revelation 19. Well, because the people, the godly, the good people of the earth are being attacked by the rulers, the kings, the big tech, these monsters that happen to have a lot of money and power. Okay, Bill Gates. And out of his mouth comes a sharp sword, that's a ramphea, that's a long judgment sword, with which to strike down nations. He will rule them with a staff of iron. It is he who treads the winepress. That is him basically coming out in Isaiah 63 of Edom, with the winepress and with the wine of his fury and his furious rage of Adonai, God of heaven's armies, the Zava again, okay, and on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Revelation 19:15 through 16. So he will come back angry because they're trying to kill off the the meek of the earth. And so the kings and the rulers and the big techs are coming against them. So that's what God is coming against. So let's run through it again. The main thing is you aren't going to be able to avoid pain, and you're not going to be able to wimp out. You're going to have to get up and fight, because God is going to be fighting on your behalf, but you have to fight too. Okay, you have to pray and you have to witness. You have to see these things. Okay, so what is it going to be? God's wrath. Where? It's going to be in that Marome area, just above your heads. That's where the fallen angels would be. The Haaretz is where the kings of the earth would be. This is future. Okay. When? Why? It's going to be the Israel and the Jews. It's going to be a Holocaust situation. That's what we're entering into. Gog Magog is like another Holocaust. And so God can't let that occur. So he has to get up and fight with us. We witness. We have to be there. So God's wrath is against the Zava again and the Melachim of earth, and which we must witness, and we will see this. Okay, so the wrath of God, yes, it will occur, but it's coming against those guys, the Zava and the Melachim. And so the pre-rapture of the church is ridiculous. You're going through. Get used to it. Get ready for it. That's what's happening. Don't wimp out. Don't. Get ready to fight. The fights we see already. I want you to see one more time this Daniel 10, Prince of Persia, this situation of what's going on. And so this is basically where the Al-Aqsa, not Al-Aqsa, the Gazans, the people fighting against the Jews that started the war, they started it in part because of the red heifer. And so what they're saying is the aggression that reached its peak against our path, the Al-Quds and Al-Aqsa, the start of it being actual temporal and spatial division of that Temple Mount area, which the spatial division is basically how the Temple Mount always was in the past when it was functioning. That is, that no foreigner may enter within the balustrade of around the sanctuary, which is the enclosure. Whoever is caught on himself shall be put the blame of the death which will ensue. So the Jews are going to take over that area and set up the services. The red heifer offering will occur across the way on the Mount of Olives, but then eventually you'll have the sacrificial system restart. And so these particular Arabs are saying this can't occur. We need to stop this spatial division up there on the Temple Mount area. And then the problem also on the right-hand side is of the cows, the red cows, and the application of the detestable religious myth designed for aggression against the feeling and whatever. Okay, so they're saying they're against the red cow. And down below you can read this and stop it if you want to, but basically it's a ritual purification that must occur before we start the sacrificial system on the Temple Mount. And it's going to occur in your lifetime, okay? And so basically what the Arabs are saying is we have to stop this, and we have to stop it any way possible. That's October 7th. And so it's good versus evil. There's the driving force behind this particular application is the Prince of Persia. Iran is driving this fight, this war. And so you may say there's no war going on at all in heaven. It's going on. Okay. The Prince of Persia is driving Iran to fight on the Temple Mount area and use other Arabs to get that war done. Yeah, the war up in heaven is occurring, and there will be judgment against the Zava and against the kings of the earth. That's how it works. So once again, wrath against the Zava, Melachim, not against us. The birth pangs, we're in them. We seem to be, okay, I'm going to say Seal 1 opened in 1967 after the Temple Mount was transferred back. Seal 2 seems to be 9/11. Seal 3 seems to be 2012. I was part of that prophecy. Seal 4, I believe, occurred in 2020. Seal 5 is yet to occur. Seal 6, all of these open silently and then get larger over time. We'll go into the the tribulation at some point in time. Then the great tribulation. The two witnesses show up probably before we go into tribulation. And once again, at the end, it's the wrath against the Zava and the Melachim, as Isaiah pointed out. You need to work on you, which is getting your garments clean, not being naked, and showing up for this wedding. It's going to be a great wedding. Be blessed. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you in a week.